Finally, somebody admits the truth. The Satanic Temple sues the state of Texas, arguing that abortion is a religious ritual protected by the First Amendment. Introducing your new vice president, Tim Walz, the man who infamously said that Minneapolis had burned because of a lack of equity and inclusion. But let's not forget, it was Pope Francis who praised the BLM rioters as good Samaritans. Plus, pro-life America at a crossroads. Donald Trump and the GOP soften on abortion. All this and the London riots tonight on the Remnant Underground. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Michael Madden. This is the Remnant Underground. So you all know it's idiocracy on steroids all around, right?
It turned out the results of Joe's IQ test had caught the attention of the highest levels of government.
So who are you?
I'm the Secretary of Energy.
I won a contest, got to be a cabinet member. I'm the Secretary of State, and there was the Attorney General.
And that's Secretary of Education.
It used to be funny. It used to be preposterous. No, it's exactly what's going on. Welcome to Idiocracy 2024.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
We are Americans, and we are tired of division and hatred and vitriolicness.
That's right. She's had enough of that vitriolicness, whatever that is. Anyway, that enlightened genius creature was trying to introduce the illustrious Tim Walz, Governor Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, the guy who, by the way, now is considered well qualified to become the vice president of these United States of America, the guy who presided over Minneapolis burning to the ground. Do you remember?
Pretty much when the very first window broke on a private business, I called the governor and I asked for the National Guard.
But a couple hours later, at 8:08, Botkovich will relay a message from the mayor. Quote, he said Walz was hesitating.
This was a guard-sized crisis and demanded a guard-sized response.
Now, as it turned out, Tim was just getting started back then. Because over the course of the last few years, Tim has locked us all down with completely dubious and deceitful science, right, over the COVID thing. He went on a little later on to legalize de facto infanticide, the abortion thing here. Legalize pot, of course. And then he made Minnesota a sanctuary city for folks who want to castrate kids. You may remember this.
When our children tell us who they are, it is our job as grown-ups to listen and to believe them.
We'll make sure that Minnesota's placed as a welcoming, loving, neighborly state where you are welcome and will be free of persecution or anything else that we're trying to see in some other states.
And now he's going to bring Minnesota Nice to the world. I'm sorry, friends, but just look at this pudgy little doofus in action. This for us, especially for Minnesotans, is so embarrassing. I mean, he's that Minnesota guy on the Sun Country flight to Florida in January, 20 below outside. He's wearing the Hawaiian shirt. He's got the flip-flops on the plane, 20 below zero outside. He's the loudest guy on the plane. SPF 90 all over the nose. You know the guy smelling like coconuts. Absolutely convinced that everyone on the plane is just cracking up, not at him, but at his jokes. And his, how loud, look how loudly I'm speaking. I must be awesome banter with a flight attendant's crew that's ready to open veins if he doesn't just shut the hell up. You know the guy? That's Tim. That's Tim Walz, the quintessential. He could be an extra on Fargo. You know what I mean?
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
Half in the bag, of course, with the free mimosas on the plane. Well, it turns out we're just fine. I didn't even know about this, but quite literally, here's a photo of old Tim back in 1995. It's a booking photo following a DUI arrest in Dawes County, Nebraska. That's our governor. You're welcome. Friends, I'm saying this a lot lately. We're not looking at politics anymore. are we? We're looking at insanity. These are unelectable people by every metric, by every standard. I'm a political science major. I can tell you we studied these things. What is electable, what isn't? These guys are absolutely unelectable, right? In any normal time period. So what's happening? What is going on? What is going on? And of course, the media just can't get enough of these people.
The strength of that stare is more powerful than anything I've ever seen a candidate do in a moment like that. No presidential candidate has ever handled a moment like that better.
They're hell-bent on trying to make Joe Biden even look positively presidential by comparison. So what are we looking at? I think we're looking at some sort of psyop whereby you get the impression as a citizen of this country that there's nothing but insanity in charge of your future, of your children, of your highways, of your bridges, of your life. People who are crazy, right? It's like the disillusionment. You're being completely... the idea of country and being proud of who and what you are and feeling protected, all those things are being taken away from us now. And we're setting up for a global option, a global government, because this is not serious. And everybody, whether you're on the right or the left, you know this. Even folks on the left are looking at Cammie. Crazy, right? They know it too. Everybody knows it. So there's really no place anymore for people like us. And by people like us, I just mean sane people, right? I'm not even talking right and left anymore. And I hope by the end of this program, or maybe by the end of the next few, because we're going to talk a lot about this over the next few weeks, we get over this mistaken notion that we're talking about Democrat versus Republican politics, right? It's not that anymore. This has moved so far beyond that. This is not what this is anymore. We're in the middle, as I say, of a Tower of Babel moment, just chaos, right? And we got to try to figure out why. Because this is now the theater, again, the theater of the absurd.
And so let me say about Tim Walz, he has shown up to stand against these attacks long before he stood on the stage with me. After Roe was overturned, he was the first governor in the country to sign a new law that enshrined reproductive freedom as a fundamental right. And with Tim Walz by my side when I am President of the United States and we win majorities in the United States Congress, we will pass a bill to restore reproductive freedom, and I will proudly sign it into law.
And I can't be the only one who's growing concerned, shall we say, at the very least, that all of this has kind of left poor old Donald Trump feeling like he has to cater to the center, to the centrist position in order to win. Donald Trump is not part of the remnant, okay? And again, I'm talking about small r remnant. Donald Trump is not a guy who's content to be in the right position, even if it means losing battles. And that's what the remnant is all about. You hold on to the truth. You have the right position with God, country, and family, even if it means you're in a minority, even if it means people are going to laugh at you, even if it means you're going to lose elections, right? Well, old Donald Trump, he's not part of that. He wants to win. That's what he does, right? So now he's moving away, friends. Now, I am not a never Trumper, but you have to, in honesty, admit this. The Trump ticket is moving away, the entire GOP, the entire platform, the Republican Party, moving away from the stuff that gave Donald Trump a seemingly miraculous victory in 2016. You remember?
Let's talk about that a little more. That announcement from the RNC that they would weaken their platform on life when that was such a winning issue 8 years ago, not just 8 years ago. It was really the winning issue for them and the one that shifted a lot of people who were reticent to come out and vote for a figure like President Trump.
And there is something to be a loyal opposition to say, listen, you said you were pro-life. You said that you wanted to defend all human life. Why are you compromising now? Why are you supporting, as an example, abortion pills? Right now the Trump van's ticket is in support of abortion pills, which are 60% of all U.S. abortions. So it's our job to call that out. That doesn't mean we're going to go vote for the Democrat side if you're pro-life, because they're even more pro-abortion all the way until birth, but we can't pretend like this is okay.
This is the only reason we stood with Trump at the time, is, as I said so many times, not because he's a conservative, not because he's a Christian, but because he was a guy who said, I will stand with those who are standing with God, country, and family. That was it. And because he did that, he has this massive, unexpected, seemingly miraculous victory, didn't he? And the left has been in apoplexy ever since. The globalists have been in apoplexy ever since.
Clearly, I consider the Trump administration a danger to the world, but I regard it as a purely temporary phenomenon that will disappear in 2020.
He stood with us, which made him arch enemy number one in the entire globalist world, right? So we need to review this. We can't just stick to the narrative ourselves, can we? In 2016, Donald Trump stood with us and so, consequently, fired up a massive base of pro-God, pro-Bible, pro-life, pro-America people, right? Not by walking back his defense of unborn babies, the most vulnerable among us, the little unborn babies in the wombs of the... Not by walking that back, no. Trump ramped it up.
Mr. Trump, you're pro-life, but I want to ask you specifically, do you want the court, including the justices that you will name, to overturn Roe v. Wade, which includes, in fact states, a woman's right to abortion?
Well, if that would happen, because I am pro-life and I will be appointing pro-life judges, I would think that that will go back to the individual states. It's terrible. If you go with what Hillary is saying, in the 9th month, you can take the baby and rip the baby out of the womb of the mother just prior to the birth of the baby. Now, you can say that that's okay, and Hillary can say that that's okay, but it's not okay with me.
Out of that, there was, as I say, a seemingly miraculous victory. Do you know why? It's because he stood with God. He stood with the godly, and I think was afforded a certain protection, a certain advantage because of that. You see what's happening here? Now they've gotten into his head. Oh, I got to move away from that, and I got to go where the center, the politics of appeasement, that's where we're going to get enough votes. And friends, I'm very concerned. He's going to lose. And after he compromises on the life issues, that loss is going to be devastating to every one of us. Anybody who's hoping for a better tomorrow for your kids is going to be absolutely blown away, demoralized, devastated by it. Whereas if you stay with God, you stay with the unborn, you stay with family, and you lose the election, at least you still have your integrity, at least you still have your soul. I mean, I get it, and I want to be real clear on this. Lip service this time around from Donald Trump is a little different. We already know where he stands on abortion. So the lip service he's given to the pro-choice people is about trying to win the election. He knows that he already has the pro-life base. He's got it right there in his hands, right? And so he's giving lip service to the moderates in order to win. I get that. He will defend the unborn more than the other guys, too. So I get that argument. Well, what are you going to do, vote for Kamala Harris? No, but that's not the Catholic response. That's not the Catholic answer. We have to do the right thing, not the most expedient thing. Now you got to do the right thing in conscience before God. But in any case, I understand Donald Trump's political maneuvering. But friends, that doesn't make me any less concerned that the compromise that's going on right now will incur the wrath of God. We saw what the favor of God can do for us and for our country in 2016. What if we incur the wrath of God this time because we're letting the babies go as a minor side political point, right? Expendable, right? What happens then? What if God just then says to the demons who want to run our country, run our lives, you take over? Because the good guys have told me to go to hell. They told my babies, the little babies, that they're not worthy of defense in the modern world, the progressive world, right? There's that compromise on life, friends. Got us very concerned. And then there's a compromise on one of the sins that cries to heaven for vengeance, the compromise on sodomy that's going on.
Donald is the first president to enter the White House supporting gay marriage. Donald is also the first president to appoint an openly gay official to his cabinet. The story of America is one of trailblazers and fearless underdogs. Today, we see freethinkers and independent voices like gay conservatives and log cabin Republicans silenced, censored, and bullied by cancel culture mobs. We are a nation that celebrates and protects diversity, and we condemn those who bully and intimidate people.
But it's been coming for a while, friends, and you never Trumpers out there, put a sock in it. I'm not talking to you. I'm not joining you on this. Because as I said before, if even the Pope has folded on this fundamental moral question for which has always been the sign, the hallmark of a civilization in total decline, right, and collapse. If even the Pope has folded on this question, he's out there right now, as you know, calling for blessings of gay couples. Where in the world do you think Donald Trump, the politician, is supposed to get the moral firepower to say, well, I am going to take a stand against them? No, that's not the way it works. Religion, faith, inform politics, right? Even in the modern world, that's the case. If a politician can look at the Pope and say, well, I guess, he knows the Bible better than I do. I know nothing about the Bible. And the Pope is saying he's got to bless gay people. Well, I want their vote. I want their vote. So if I can team up with them, I'm going to. If I can lay down the whole thing, the biblical-based problem with Sodom, I'm going to do that. And that's exactly what's happening. So yeah, why has Trump folded on this question since 2016? Well, because the world's most recognized moral authority has also folded on that question since 2016. He's out there asking for all the priests and bishops of the world to bless gay couples. What's more serious in your opinion, catering the vote of gay couples or blessing them? Think about it. You see, that's precisely the problem. And what happens, though, after this? If you make political compromises, the good guys, the guys who are trying to stand with the good guys, with the guys in the white hat, with the children in the white, if you make these compromises, what happens to Christian moral teaching the next morning after the election, after they lose the election? What happens to Christian moral teaching impacting and informing politics in the future, friends? It won't. It never will. Never again. Just as it hasn't over in Catholic, quote-unquote, Catholic Europe for decades. They never talk about abortion. They never talk about a God. They never talk about family in Catholic Europe, the bastion of Christianity. They never talk about it anymore. It's gone, completely gone, because that's where the faith died first. Thanks to the spirit of Vatican II, the modernism that infested the Catholic Church. So what we need to brace for, friends, first of all, we can't give up on politics. We have to stay involved and stay active and speak our minds on what we think needs to happen in order not to incur the wrath of God on our politician or our political situation. But if we need to brace then for this massive demoralization if and when Trump loses again after having compromised on the moral issues, you see? And that's kind of what I mean by the psyop. We're going to see everything falling apart soon, coming down, right? Just complete disintegration. And you don't think that cackling Cammy and Tiny Tin can win? Oh man, don't kid yourselves, friends. Of course they can win. Of course. The media that wants these two clowns to win just succeeded in locking the entire world down, masking them up, and then getting them to take experimental vaccines and give them to their kids when they didn't need them. Do you think it's going to be difficult for the same media to convince the world to vote for these two clowns? Of course not. Besides, the left, friends, the Kamala Harrises, the Tim Walzes of this world, the Joe Bidens, they have religion on their side. This is the supreme demonic irony of what we're going through. They have religion on their side. We don't anymore. Yeah, it's a demonic antichrist religion, sure, but it's religion. And they are zealots. They are extremists. They are fundamentalist practitioners of a very weird cult religion, the basis of which is the blood of the innocents, right? the sacrificial blood of babies. There's Kamala Harris and Tiny Tim. Where do you think they met? What was the venue for their meeting? Their famous meeting that led to this now union of president and vice president for 2024. You know what the venue was? Planned Parenthood.
Many of you have asked, why am I here at this facility in particular? And I will tell you, it is because right now in our country we are facing a very serious health crisis. And the crisis is affecting many, many people in our country, most of whom are frankly silently suffering. After the United States Supreme Court took a constitutional right that had been recognized from the people of America, from the women of America. So I'm here at this health care clinic to uplift the work that is happening in Minnesota as an example of what true leadership looks like.
Remember what happened right before Minneapolis burned? The mayor set up Abortion Provider Appreciation Day for everyone to celebrate over in Minneapolis. That's what's going on. This is a religion, a dark and satanic religion.
The Satanic Temple says they have a strategy for women to access the abortion drug. Take it as part of a religious expression.
We really feel that the freedom of choice is something that that belongs to our religious membership, and they should be able to, on religious liberty grounds, maintain it.
They recently sent a letter to the FDA asking the church be allowed access to the abortion-inducing drug for its rituals, and they're working on filing a lawsuit. And the heartbeat bill violates their religious freedom.
By regulating the context in which the ritual happens, you're necessarily regulating the ritual itself. It's necessarily that's what's happening. If I say nobody can buy wine, well, that's affecting the Catholic's ability to do mass.
And what do we have? No, seriously. What do we have?
The GOP defending the pocketbook issues? The elephant? Are you kidding me? Do you actually believe that's going to work? You think that they're playing politics over on the left right now? You know what it is when you take politics into a religious war like we're trying to do right now, most of us? You know what that is? That's taking a knife to a gunfight and lose every time. You're going to get destroyed when you go against leftist zealotry that is firmly following the credo of Satanism and human sacrifice. And you're like, well, let's make sure we all get out there and vote. You think that's going to do it? USA, USA, USA. You think that's going to do it? I know how this works. Maybe we know how it works more than a lot of people because we actually lived through it. And it was truly demonic. I told you at the time, I would look out my door, I live out in the country, and I could see way on the horizon a golden, sort of orange, Halloween-y, and yellowish flickering. My city, Minneapolis, on fire. We saw that. We lived through it. They burned our city down. And guess what they did after that? After Minneapolis burned, after we had chaos that rocked the world, do you know what they all did? All those politicians on the left? They ran for re-election. And they won. Every single one of them won. Don't tell me that you think that Cammie and Tim have no chance of winning when they go up against the Donald. No way, man. Trump's going to kick their butts. And we tried, by the way. We did everything we possibly could, going out into the streets at the time to stop these maniacal Luciferian freaks from destroying the place that we love, our home state.
Do not let them polarize us. And finally, before I go, we're going to have another beautiful song. Let's remember this, Governor Walz. You say that you are going to save us from the COVID. Governor, we would rather die of COVID than die of tyranny.
But that's why, friends, on this show, as I said, I'm a political science major, not a theology major, right?
But on this show, we spend all of our waking moments fighting for what? For God's rights, protection of the family, right? For God's rights in our society, and demanding that people like Donald Trump do the same if they want our support, because that's where we are. And that's the only reason we did it in 2016, was because he said he'd stand with us, and for the most part he did. And why? Why is that so important? Because unless and until we get back to that, friends, unless and until we get back to defending the rights of God, well, you can kiss your rights goodbye. Every single one of them. You can forget all about your civil liberties. That's a pipe dream. It's gone. They have no intention of defending, preserving your civil liberties. They couldn't give a damn about you or your civil liberties or your rights in the world that they got in mind. The globalist super slave state, surveillance state that these religious fanatics, these zealots have in mind. So I'm dead serious. Nothing else matters. Absolutely nothing else matters. Right? In our little foxhole here. Yeah, we don't have a side to choose necessarily. We're still hoping that there might be one that we can, in good conscience, scrape out some justification for siding with. Right? But it's getting slim now, isn't it? Few and far between. So we may not have the winning team to be on. That's what I say, the theology of the remnant. Are you ready for it? Are you ready to be in your foxhole and realizing that the only way out is that rosary in your pocket? The only way out is your faith. The only way out is the Mass. The only way out is Jesus Christ. The only way out is God. Are you ready for that? Because that's what's going to be expected of us, and that is the very essence of the theology of the remnant. That's the whole point of this little part set aside. They keep the faith until God rewards that fidelity by changing the political situation in the world. It's happened again and again and again down through history. And we got to be on that side. That's the side we're on. The side that appears to be losing in the short term, the little remnant. And again, it's fun to make fun of Democrats, don't get me wrong, because they are serious morons, in addition to being evil, most of them. But I don't actually blame the Democrats. Does that surprise you? I don't blame the Democrats for what's going on. That's kind of what I mean by don't fall into this polarization thing that they're trying to force us all. Pick a side, right? We control them both. We want you to pick one or the other, right? Don't fall into that. I don't blame the Democrats, because let's review. Little Tim Walz, what did he do after they burned our city down? He blamed a lack of, you guessed it, diversity, equity, and inclusion, baby.
Diversity, inclusion, and equity are core values of mine. They're core values of Minnesota.
Breaking news story out of Minneapolis, chaos overnight, protests continuing, and you're looking at video of a Minneapolis police station that was set ablaze late last night.
A society that does not put equity and inclusion at the center of it is certainly going to eventually come to the places where we're at. This is a moment of inflection. It's a moment of real change. It's a moment that those folks who are out there demanding this are not going to take a commission or a report. They're going to want fundamental change. And that is what I think, that's one of the exciting things in the midst of all this. You can feel a sense of optimism coming back.
So that's what he blamed it on, diversity, equity, including. Need more of that. And you get really mad about that. Let's condemn Tim Walz, really? Because this guy did something worse. This guy hailed those same Marxist-backed, Soros-funded rioters as poets of society and good Samaritans. Do you remember this?
Esencial es que ahí, en esa manifestación contra esa muerte, estaba el samaritano colectivo, que no era ningún bobeta. Ese movimiento no pasó de largo cuando vio la herida de la dignidad humana golpeada por semejante abuso de poder. Los movimientos populares son, además de poetas sociales, samaritanos colectivos.
Do you begin to see the problem here, friends? That's it. The traditional Catholic fight is not a fight merely for the Mass. I've said so many times. It is for our lives and the lives of our children. If the Catholic Church does not find itself again, find its identity again, get a Pope who's truly Catholic and not globalist, this is going to continue, friends. It's going to continue because there is no one to hold them responsible, these demons. They can wander about freely in the open space because there are no nuns, there are no priests, there are no exorcists out there to stop them. The church, in other words, is gone. That's the only thing behind which we can hide and save our souls and save the souls of our children, preserve our way of life. Do you understand that? The whole political world at this moment, including the Vatican, is on board with a radical, leftist, evil agenda, which includes, as I just said, which includes the blood sacrifice of unborn babies on the one hand. And the other big thing, these are we call them the big two. Sacrifice of unborn babies, of course, that's really, really important. Sacrifice of them to Moloch, got to do that. And the other one, of course, sacrilegious redefining of marriage, right? Marriage. After that is that's the center, that's the foundation of the family, right? And the family is the nucleus of society. Going after babies, going after marriage. That's all they want. That's all they're doing. Christ himself raised marriage, matrimony, to the dignity of what? Of a sacrament. That's one of the sacraments of God. Any attack on that sacrament is an attack on Christ. You see why they wanted gay marriage? You see what it really is, what it really was? It had nothing to do with their rights. It had everything to do with a satanic attack on Christ and his sacraments. And these attacks on Christ, on his sacraments, are at the very heart and bosom of our national and now international unrest. We have to see this. We must see this. It's not politics, friends. It's this attack on Christ. And if we begin to see this, maybe we can contribute to doing something about it, right? Because you see what's going on right now over in a town like London. Scary stuff, isn't it? Or maybe you haven't seen it because the mainstream media are very busy doing everything they possibly can to make sure you don't see it, not to cover it. And if you do happen to see it, well, guess who they're blaming? They're blaming far-right racists for stirring up hate. And what's their crime? They're trying to defend their homeland. A couple little girls got killed over there, right? And so then folks got mad. Dads went into the street and got really angry that they were that seemed like they were under attack. Right? You good? That's what they're doing. And what they're saying now is that it's racist to defend your homeland, to defend your neighborhood from what looks to be an outside invasion. I get all that. It's terrifying. If somebody came after my kids, I might lose my mind too and go into the street and start hating on people who are different than I am. But see, that's just the point. Before they come after my girls, and I've got 5 of them, before they have to come after my kids, we should be looking at the cause of this. Don't let it get to the point where we all lose our mind in hateful revenge. What was happening in our streets? We have to apply what we say that we believe. The whole Christian moral principle. We have to apply that to what's happening in the real world. It's not just for Sunday morning. Right? It's going to define us. It's to identify us. We have to bring that into the conversation. That's what we're fighting for. So let's not get ahead of ourselves, Jim. This is not the Sean Hannity show. I'm looking at what's happening in London right now. I don't blame the Muslims first and foremost either for this mess. I blame those who created it because I refuse to be polarized by these globalist, stinking elites, these godless elites. I refuse to let them polarize me into becoming one of their little pawns, whether it's a black pawn or a white pawn. I don't care. I'm not going to do it. Because guess what, friends? We are Christians first. That's what defines us. And as such, we don't hate Muslims. We don't hate Jews. We don't hate anyone. Why not? Because our religion forbids that sort of hatred under pain of everlasting damnation. That is not a solution. Hate doesn't fix anything. If we understood something about the historical context of how things got to this point, who put us in this point, who exploited us, Christian and Muslim, to get to this point, this desperate, violent point in human history, well, maybe if we understood the context, we'd be a little bit more willing to apply Christian principles to the resolution of the conflict and how we're supposed to deal with our fellow men. Even those who don't share our religion, who don't look like us, who don't have the same skin color as us. Isn't that what we're required to do by our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ himself and what he taught? What happened to that? This is a terrifying moment
when things reach a fever pitch like this. I mean, don't you see what's going on here? They are playing us, the anti-Christians, the secularists, the modernists, the global elites are playing us like a cheap violin. They're manipulating us. They're weaponizing us. They're weaponizing even our religions. So we will be willing to tear each other apart to such an extent that there can only be a global police state that can save us all from certain ruin, right? You want that? Do you want the global surveillance state, the police state, the one world government? That's what they want. They're creating this chaos. They're creating this hatred in order to blow it all apart. How did all these Muslims get into the formerly Christian countries of Europe? What happened? I'll tell you what happened. We let them in. And do you know how we let them in? We let them in by pulling down the banner of Christ the King and then spitting on it and saying, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. He doesn't matter. The cross doesn't matter. Borders of Christian countries don't matter. What matters is globalism. That's where we're going to play our part and go along with that. Go along to get along, right? And then just to make sure, we started bombing the hell out of the homeland of these guys in the name of the neocon total wars of the 70s, 80s, 90s, well, all the way back. It goes back a long way. Started bombing their countries. Made it so miserable there that they're walking across Europe, up out of Africa, across Europe, trying to find some place where they can live in peace, right? And when they get there, they get a little ticked off. And they're met by people who see them as invaders. You understand how that works? I get that. I totally understand that. But who caused the unrest in the first place? Why were we bombing so many countries? All my life, I've been bombing countries to hell over there, right? And then we did brilliant things, like assassinate Muslims, moderate Muslims, like Saddam Hussein, who, like him or not, crazy or not, at least he managed to keep the peace in Iraq, remember? Before we took him out. You know, there was peace in Iraq between Christians and Muslims. I know Muslim Christians, Muslim Catholics, Iraqi Christians and Catholics who confirmed this. And it had been actually quite peaceful, you know? So this is the bed that we've made for ourselves, and now we've got to lie in it. And just shouting USA, USA, USA is not going to fix it. It's not going to fix it. So are we patriots? Yes, of course we're patriots. I understand patriotism full well. It's a natural virtue. I'm very patriotic. I love my country. I was raised by a World War II veteran who gave 3.5 years of his life fighting for his country in World War II, in Europe, in Africa. But he asked questions, you see? He was a journalist. He was a newspaper guy. He came from a long line of newspaper men. And that's why my father was neither a Nazi, nor a Bolshevist, nor a Americanist for that matter. He was a Catholic, and his Catholicism was the thing that defined him until the day he died, which is why he could think straight and was not manipulated by anyone, even post-conciliar popes. So long story short, friends, don't let them polarize you. The media are the problem. The narrative is the problem. The thing that you're hearing, the current thing, is manufactured, it's fake, and it's gay, and it's the problem every single time. These people in the media and their masters, the globalist elite folks, they have absolutely no respect for God. They have absolutely no respect for human life. They couldn't care any less if you live or die. It's all about their power. I mean, we know this, right? And what they want most from us is for us to abandon Christianity. It's just that simple. This is a war against Christianity, against the cross. That's all it is. It gets no more complicated than this. It gets no more political than this. We're in the middle of a holy war. The political, quote unquote, the political answer right now, the solution for all of us, no matter what happens, no matter what we see, no matter what they say, is keep the faith of our fathers. Because you know what that means? Essentially, it means stay human as a creature, a child of God. Don't let them take your humanity, which was created by God. Don't let them turn you into the animals that they are. Be the child of God, the temple of the Holy Ghost that God created you to be. Because if we lose Christ, friends, if we abandon our Christian roots, if we stop being Catholic, we will spend our last days in a futile battle, hating those that we're told to hate, and letting the world, by the way, the world that needs an example of Christianity right now more than anything else, letting the world see how these Christians hate one another. And if the world sees that even Christianity was fake, that no one could actually do it in the end, then it's the end for all of us. We can never, ever let that happen, friends. Stay human. Stay alive. Hold fast to the old faith of our fathers and never become them.